Let's bring in the President of the United States, who's working in the Oval Office right now. Mr. President, how are you tonight?
Hello, Bill. How are you?
I'm the same, which is tragic for everyone. People hope that I improve, and I never do. So I'm going to ask you a few questions, and Cuomo's got a few, then Stephen A. You ready to go?
I think he hung up on you.
Good. Is that it? That's the interview. Mr. President, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can.
Okay. So a series of rough polls this week, and I'm wondering how you process that. Does it hurt your feelings when you see numbers come in that are not what you'd like them to be?
Well, first of all, they're fake polls. And if you take a look at the polls, they interviewed more, and for the most part, they interviewed more Democrats than they did Republicans, which is ridiculous and unfair. And Democrats aren't voting for Trump. And you look at him, John McLaughlin, who's the most respected pollster, said I'm at 50, 55, and maybe even higher than that. And he said that these polls are largely fake. When you look at the New York Times, when you look at the Washington Post, ABC, they predicted I was going to lose Wisconsin by 17 points, and I ended up winning Wisconsin. They predicted I was going to lose the election, and I ended up winning the election. They're fake polls, number one, and I think it's a very important thing to know that and to understand it. And because polls are no different than fake writers or journalism, and it's not a pretty thing when you watch. So when you say, am I bothered by it? If I was, I'd be really helped by the fact that in the election, we won in a landslide. We won the popular vote. We won the swing states. We won the districts, 2,750 to about 505. And the election took place just a short while ago, November 5th. I think it was
what's different now,
very
Mr.
big
President,
day for the country.
What's different now is the tariffs, and that's what's driving your numbers down. That some people are panicking because the stock market is so up and down, in and out. Would you agree that that has been a perception problem, the tariffs?
Yeah, but I'm an honest guy, and we have to save the country. We were losing $5 billion a day with this man that we had as a president, the auto pen president. Nobody even knows who the president was. We're losing, think of it, we're losing $5 billion a day, and a big chunk of it was from China. Now China is sending its boats back. The boats are not being unloaded because they have a 145% tariff, which is, a record-setting type tariff, and they can't sell their product here. And because of that, think of it, if you're losing all of that money, maybe you're better off not doing business with them. But I took $5 billion a day and cut it way, way down, way, way back. And I did that within a very short period of time.
When do you think, though, it's going to turn around economically so that people aren't frightened? Do you have a timeline on it?
Yeah, it's a very fair question. Building plants, building equipment, building so much right now. You probably heard it could be $8 trillion, it could be more than $8 trillion of new investments. Outside in one of my offices waiting for me is the president and chairman of Eli Lilly. And I just left, you take a look, IBM was here today. IBM was here. They're spending billions of dollars. I had some of the biggest Apple, as you know, is spending $500 billion. They're building their plants, and they've already started in the United States. As you know, they built most of them in China. We had the biggest companies in the world. I had a conference here just about an hour and a half ago, and some of the people are still here. They remain. Some of the people are watching your show tonight. But they're spending, it could be close, I think we're over $8 trillion of new investment. That's unheard of. It's never been anything like that.
But most people, but they want to know a timeline.
They're doing that to avoid the tariffs, Bill.
Okay.
They're doing that to avoid the tariffs.
But do you have a timeline yourself? Do you say, look, it's got to stabilize by this time, fall? Because remember, if it doesn't stabilize this time next year, Democrats may win the midterms. So there is risk here, big risk.
That's true. It is true. And I just think that I'll be able to convince people how good this is. This is what other countries have done to us. We've been the laughing stock and the whipping post. We've been ripped off by every country practically in the world, just ripped off on trade. And by the way, ripped off with NATO and the military too, because we supported NATO to a tune that was almost, at one point until I became president, it was close to 100%. We were spending. So we're spending on NATO to protect Europe, and then on Europe, they're ripping us off on trade. But if you look at the European Union, they've been brutal to the United States. We lose $300 billion, $350 billion a year to Europe. They don't take our cars. We take 10 million of their cars.
That's getting better,
they don't take our farm products. Right. We take their farm products. And it has to change.
All right.
So,
okay, but
I'm willing to be the one that does that, but it has to change. And I've been given a lot of credit. I got an editorial today by a group that I won't mention, but a group that's a very sort of a semi-anti-Trump group. And they said, whether you like it or not, he's the most consequential president that we've ever had, because he's doing things that if you don't do it, we won't have a country left.